When I'm really in the right frame of mind, I don't answer to why. All right, welcome to the Czech Republic. Just over the southern border from Austria. Heading up toward Prague right now. I'm gonna stop and hang out in some small village that's on an island, in a lake or something like that. One of the things that bothers me about everything I see on National Geographic, the Discovery Channel that involves animals, is they talk about them doing things for a reason. Oh, the bird's doing this thing because, when it gets colder, they want to make sure they're prepared, they've got the food prepared, and, winter's coming, and all these kinds of things. Really? Is that what's on the bird's mind? Is that really what's on the bird's mind? There's some kind of parasite that grows inside of an ant, inside their brain, and it makes them crazy, and they start doing weird stuff, and then starts growing out of their head. It looks really torturous and disgusting, and slowly kills them. And when the ants notice that happening, that one of these ants is kind of losing his mind, they carry him out away from the rest of the ants. But what bugs me is this idea that they do it for a reason. Well, they don't want it to infect the other ants, and so they carry this thing off. Is that really what's going on? Is that what's going on? You got a couple of ants that get together and they're like, hey, you know what? Have you seen Frank? He's kind of walking around in circles and looking kind of fucked up. Maybe we should do something about it. Well, I don't know. Let's talk to everybody else first. All right, let's get Sally and Francesca. We're going to have a meeting at 2:30. Well, I'm having a late lunch. Let's make it 3 o'clock. Okay, cool. So, no, 3 o'clock's fine. We'll get together and we'll talk about it. Hey, everybody. You seen Frank? Yeah, he's walking around in circles. He's got shit growing out of his head. What should we do about that? Well, whatever's happening to him, we really don't want him to affect the rest of our group. So maybe we should carry him a fair distance outside of the group and pretty much just leave him on his own to starve or be killed by whatever's happening. This isn't what's happening. This is not what ants are thinking about. This is not what birds are thinking about. Just because the means came to a particular end doesn't mean they had that end in mind when they were doing what they were doing. They can't, for some reason, picture a world where we know what to do because it's in us to know what to do, and that the end result works itself out. I don't answer to why. When I'm really in the right frame of mind, I can't really tell you why. It's just in me to do things, and generally they work out in a particular way that's beneficial. But if somebody wanted to create a narrative later on, they wanted to look back, and they wanted to look back from the end and build a case backwards, reverse engineer my decisions in life. Say, oh, well, he got here because he wanted to get there, that's why he did this thing before that, and to get there he did this thing before that. And so, he started with this thing and he got rid of all of his stuff because he wanted to achieve this particular goal. Not necessarily the case. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But the reason I think it's so important is because we don't have to have a mind like that in order to accomplish what we want to accomplish here on Earth. We don't have to be able to think 3 steps ahead and consider all of the consequences and work all of these things out. And, a lot of people could look back at the decisions I've made, see where I'm at now, and go, wow, that was genius. How did you have the foresight when you were 22 years old to start making these choices that got you to where you are today? I mean, who could have possibly known? But you knew and you did it. No, that's not what happened at all. I took big chances. I didn't know where it was necessarily going to lead me. Sometimes I had an end in mind. It was fuzzy, but I had something in mind. Other times, I didn't. I just knew that I had to do this thing, that this was the next step in my life. And you don't have to be a genius or even particularly smart to make those decisions. I got my backpack rolling around. You don't have to be a genius to make genius decisions in your life. There is a such thing as intuition. There is a such thing as your inner voice. There is a such thing as quieting your mind, putting your fears aside, and choosing the things that seem illogical or foolish. I don't answer to why. And the things I do are not a means to an end. If the end happens a certain way, then great, but I do it because it's in me to do it. Why did you go to Europe? There's no why. There's no why. I could come up with whys, and I'll tell you what, as I'm living my life here in Europe, as I'm doing what I'm doing, driving these beautiful mountain roads in the Czech Republic right now, I could build a backstory, and it's easy for me to do. It's easy for me to get lost in the narrative afterward, to look back, to see what was accomplished from some choice that I made, and then start switching things around on myself and go, oh, well, I went because I wanted to accomplish this, that, and this. No, that's not what happened. I have to keep myself honest. I wasn't that smart. I wasn't that aware. I wasn't that clever or clear-minded. These things did happen, and they were better than what I could have expected or would have wanted to happen. But it's giving myself way too much credit to say this is what I had in mind when the trip began. Don't let anybody paint you into a corner of why. Don't let anybody force you to answer that question before you make decisions in your life. Well, why would you quit your job? I don't need a fucking reason to quit my job. It's just in me to do it. To me, this is really important. To not intellectualize the choices that I make. Because when I intellectualize the choices that I make, then I start thinking I need reasons for the next decision I'm going to make. And it takes all the power out of the way that I live my life. I do what I do because it's who I am. And the more I'm in touch with who I am, and the more I'm getting rid of my fears, and the more clarity I have, the more confident I am in the choices that I make, no matter what the result is. I think there are times when you know you want to get to a certain place, and so you go ahead and let your mind figure out how to get there, okay? I mean, I got on an airplane, right? That wasn't mindless. I rented a car, an apartment, I chose a route. But the vision, the direction, that came from someplace else. And once I had that vision and direction, then yes, I put my mind to work to accomplish the task of going that way. But that's different than saying that I had an end result in mind. Here's how it happens for me. I'll have a moment of clarity or an idea, something I want to do. Oh, you know what? I think I want to go to Europe. And it's a really pure thought. Doesn't have a lot of motivation to it. It's just, this is what I want to do. And then the more I think about it, I think, oh, that'd be nice. Well, while I'm there, I can go over the mountains, I can see the Alps, I can visit this city. Well, I hear about Vienna, and I hear about Prague, and, well, I should really, go to this museum or that museum. And what happens is the why, the plan, the result starts building itself to where I'm starting to serve those things. Okay, so when I get there, I need to make sure, see where this is going? I need to make sure that I visit this or I see that. Well, wait a minute. Is that why I'm going to Europe? No, it's not. I'm going because I wanted to go. I just want to go. I just want to go. If these things work out when I'm there, then great. But I can't let these things solidify in my mind as the reasons why, because then I start trying to make them happen and I lose all of the magic of the experience. And I start explaining it as if it needs to be explained, as if I have to justify the choices that I make. All right, folks, you're just gonna let me in now. This is just how it's gonna go. There's at least 4 levels of things that are happening on this trip. I can't even really explain them all yet, and I'm not too worried about it, because what I'm really focusing right now is just integrating the experience into my life. I'm just letting it become a part of me. Europe is becoming a part of me. The way Mexico did, the way South America did, the way North America did. I'm just trying to let it in. I'm just trying to let it happen. I'm just trying to share moments with this place, with the people, with the experiences. I'm trying to say, yes, I see you. Here I am. And I can feel a quality developing in me that is deeper than my conscious mind. And I'm okay with that. If it never comes up to the surface, if it never becomes intellectualizable, sure. If it never becomes quantifiable, articulable, okay. I'm okay with that. I don't need to ever explain this. But if my past is any indicator, I will be able to explain it at some point. Probably in a pretty satisfying way. And that's something that I look forward to, but it's not something that I need. And it's not something I'm going to push on, force to happen. Keep in mind, going all the way back to the beginning, that my belief on how things happen in life, when they're happening the way that I want them to, from the place of creativity and power and truth, is that first I know who I am. Then from the place that I am, I choose. From those choices, I do. No place in there is justification for what I do. I do it because it's who I am. I don't need to explain myself. I don't have to justify my decisions. The more we know who we are, the less we answer to the question why. Why is not my God? Why is not my God? The most powerful decisions I've ever made were spontaneous, they were creative, they were intuitive. And the things that happened from those decisions were far beyond my expectations. The results were far beyond my expectations.